Thank you for listening to First Light Warrior Podcast, empowering a savage, not average mindset. My name is Tala Smith, and this will be episode number 5. I decided to revisit a story I shared in a writer's therapy family discussion on X Spaces last year. I've lived in San Bernardino for 15 years, probably more, and never once at this elevation had I seen it snow. It did eventually happen. So here's the setup. I go out in the evenings to walk, get my exercise, get my steps. And I would walk around the neighborhood, around a certain block. Well, one day, there were a lot of sirens, and then there was a plume of smoke. And it's a couple of blocks away, on a neighboring street. And I knew it was pretty bad. But a few days later, when I was walking around the neighborhood, I could see just how bad it really was. There was a home over there that was a total loss. The place was gutted. There were a few belongings on the grass out front, a lot of debris. The house and the garage both burned, and it was so strange. With the front of the garage gone, you could see through to a closet, and in the closet were hanging a set of clothes that almost looked untouched. It was a rather conflicting image. It was interesting. But I did feel bad for this family that had lost everything. The home was unoccupied and remained that way for a long time. Nothing was even being done to clean things up. I assume waiting on the insurance. So every night when I would walk around the block, I could see whether there was any activity or progress being made. Not much. Some here and there. And the weather changed. There were days when it rained. It was odd looking at everything still hanging in that closet and thinking to myself, I would be tempted to try to rescue anything that was left. But it was all just there, exposed to the weather and the elements. Meanwhile, life went on around the neighborhood, which is not an upper scale sort of area. Keep that point in mind for a moment. The weather shifted, and we moved into cold weather, and I continued to take my walks. And then came the day that my neighbor texted me and said, "Did you see? It's snowing." And I said, "Oh, yeah, I saw some flurries. Kind of cool." And she said, "No, it's snowing." I looked outside, and to my surprise, it was real snow down here in San Bernardino. So I grabbed my phone and ran outside after putting my boots on. And I played in the snow, had a great time. It was novel. Took a bunch of pictures and video to document and use later. All very exciting. Froze my fingers. I have Raynaud's syndrome. Didn't care. And it was a few inches of snow. It didn't just touch down and melt and disappear. The next day there was still a little bit of snow on the ground, and I was fascinated enough to take a walk. As I went around the block and got closer to that house, I could see still what little possessions were in the home, the clothing hanging in the closet, untouched. But now snow had come through the non-existent roof and was resting on everything. I can't explain why this was so fascinating. I guess because these are things that are not normally exposed to the outdoor world, the outside. The snow all eventually melted, and as I continued to take my walks in the evening, I did start to see little bits of activity taking place. I could tell that crews were coming in and doing some amount of cleanup. There had been glass on the sidewalk for the longest time. That was finally gone. Life got busy and the weather wasn't the greatest. And then one day I decided, it's been a while, I need to take a walk. As I rounded the block this time, to my surprise, everything was cleaned up. It had been a while, and there was a brand new home, fully constructed, nice pretty driveway, everything pristine, perfect. I guess they got their settlement and rebuilt. Awesome. But here was what fascinated me. As I looked at this beautiful home, I thought to myself, wow, that really stands out. This neighborhood is not that fancy. I mean, it's not a mansion. They rebuilt in the same place, basically the same house, maybe some upgrades, but it was new and it was nicer. It was different. And it stuck out like a sore thumb in this somewhat run-down older neighborhood. This nice new home no longer looked like it belonged. I'm relatively certain most people would want to rebuild in the same place because it's within their comfort zone. It's what they are familiar with. It's been their home for so long they cannot see themselves anywhere else. Are you following what I'm saying now? It is not easy to uproot yourself from your comfort zone. But the truth is, when events or choices happen in your life that burn you to the ground, it is your opportunity to rebuild, to recreate. And when you do that, everything is new. And things become upgraded and beautiful and bigger and better. And if you look around at that point, you're going to realize, I'm in the wrong neighborhood. It's a choice. They could have taken whatever settlement, sold their property, moved somewhere else nicer. It's been done. It's not the choice they made. I'm not saying I don't understand it. But if you draw from this illustration, you must understand that you may not belong in the same neighborhood where you have established yourself. You may not fit in anymore. When you make the decision to let the fire take you all the way down to the foundation and you rebuild, the end result inevitably is better. And at that point, you need to know if you're in the right neighborhood or if you need to pick up and leave. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because to be perfectly clear, you are not obligated to the relationships and the events of the past. When I summited Half Dome at age 52, my entire team had changed from the time I started planning. I was looking around at faces that I did not expect to be there and missing the ones that I believed would be there. It changed. of a necessity. My dream was to do that hike with my big brother. He wasn't able to do it at that point. Next year. He's ready. Everything in its time. But if you are going to effectively rebuild yourself into a new and improved version, you must allow your support system, your framework, your neighborhood to evolve at the same time. At this stage in my life, I am the happiest I can remember in forever. Everything in my life has led up to this point. And I never saw myself podcasting, and yet here we are, and it's perfect. I'm happy. If you asked me a year ago, I couldn't have seen this. And over the last few years, I've had moments where I was stalled and I felt stuck. And I didn't know what I was doing or why I was doing it anymore. It took a season of allowing myself to burn it all down. It took a season of recognizing that I deserved to heal from the pain of my past and my present. A tearful moment of recognition that I deserve to heal. And so many people never hit that point. Once the fire has done its work, you can start fresh. But then what? Build in the same neighborhood? Have the same people around you? End up with the same results? You ever see what happens in a ghetto? I have. You don't drop off nice things in a place where a poverty spirit exists. And trust me, it is a spirit. Mindset is everything. And if the people around you that you interact with daily, who have input in your life and your mindset, are not on the same path where you know you need to be, it's time to reevaluate. In my world, I have watched people on their own relegate themselves outside of my inner circle. It happens. And sometimes that's okay. It feels okay. Other times it's confusing, maybe even hurtful. But with some people, you have to let them go because they are not ready or willing to level up. Now, I was told by a very dear friend that I was in his inner circle because I deserved to be there. That's not snarky, it's not arrogant, it's fact. And I consider that to be quite an honor. But you see, I realized not long after that, I have to make the same choices. Because not everyone deserves to be in my inner circle. I am not obligated to the connections of the past. If they are unwilling to grow, then they cannot go where I am going. Not everyone will walk that path with you. To those who are, I am deeply grateful. You are absolutely precious to me. So consider this: if you have gone through a season of fire, a snowfall, a time of silence and stillness, if there is wreckage, if things need to be torn down, if something vulnerable has had to be seen by the world, start cleaning up at some point and start rebuilding, but do it in a better place. It's not selfish, it's savage, and it needs to be. Have a good night.
Let's get it started. Tala, you want to start by giving your feedback on everything or just something you wanted to share?
Yeah, it was an interesting topic to choose because the next message I'm working on for my podcast ties into it, oddly.
And I didn't even run it by you. I didn't
Yeah,
even
you
have
didn't,
time.
and you have no idea what I'm posting. So yeah, I mean, she and I are often on the same brainwave. The story that I'm gonna create an episode from is one that I told in the Writers Therapy family space one time. And I don't remember whether Ryan was there for it, whether he knows this one. He might have been. Usually when I'm storytelling in there, I'm very much in the zone, and I sometimes don't even see who comes and goes while I'm speaking. But it ties into the idea that as you evolve and change within your own path, within your life, your support structure has to change with that. And when I started planning for Half Dome, my entire team looked completely different than the moment I was standing on top of that mountain. All the faces had changed. The people who had committed to it dropped out one by one. The people who never even thought about it were the ones who were there. And that was so strange to me when I realized that recently. It didn't occur to me at the time. But this year I thought about it and I said, wow, everyone was different. Now, the reason it came up for me is because as I announced recently, I am going to be doing that hike again. Only this time I'm going with the first person that I had asked to do that hike with me, and he's able to do that now. So it's kind of evolved backwards in a way. It's like, okay, I'm finally ending up where I intended to be in the first place. But that first summit, everything had changed. It needed to. Like, not just for them, they had to do other things, but for me, I think that the original team I put together would not have been support, but rather an anchor. It would have been very difficult. Granted, not everything went perfectly. It never does. But in my life now, when I look around at those who have been genuinely present, genuinely supportive, genuinely behind everything that I'm doing, like, the faces have changed. The people that I've known longer who I thought would be here for this moment, they're not really. I mean, they might be there, but they're not really there. You know what I mean? And I kept thinking about this recently. Like was brought up before, when things are not going the best, look around and see if anybody dipped out. Okay? Now, that may not matter to you, but it is a lesson. It can be a red flag with some people. Like, you're only hanging around when things are going well, so why are you close to me at any point ever? That's the question that has to be asked. It doesn't matter if someone wants to move on or walk away. Let them. But if they turn around and come back when you start looking more polished and pretty and things are going well, that's a huge red flag to me. Like, what, you only respect what I'm doing or my message or anything that I've been grinding away at because now it looks good? I really don't like that. So I have had to restructure the people that I allow into my inner circle and talk to about my plans and share, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or hey, this is what's happening. Not everybody gets that information because not everyone has earned that level of trust. And that has been, I think, the most important illustration in my life of I am no longer trying to people please. If they didn't step up when things weren't going perfectly and I actually needed them, then they're not going to get to share in the goodies when everything is going well. You don't have to do that. You're not obligated because somebody did something for you 10 years ago. Were they there when you were going through the dark times? Were they there when you had questions or needed somebody to explain something or lift you in some way because you were just dragging? I think to me that's the most important question to answer.